Guys, please, there's two problems here. One is that you're counting on debt to be your supplier, your provider. The second thing is you're waiting on the government to be your provider. Neither one of these turn out to be good providers.
What's up, hard chargers, and welcome back to another episode of Hodgepodgepreneur with me, Kyle Miller. And today I wanted to follow up on a video I did before because I think that throughout my life it has been very important for me to look at both sides of any argument, because between the two of them, where they intersect is the truth. And so I am not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer. I told you that on the other video. I'm not giving legal advice and I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm aggregating some things that I have found and putting them together to paint a picture for you of the different arguments that I have and don't have for various things. On this topic of the PPP loan in particular, I wanted to show you the other side of not taking the loan. So in my other video, I gave the argument for, hey, you don't have to wait for economic impact to actually slap you in the face in order to recognize you might need this. It's not a handout. It's not a pride thing, because you didn't shut your business down. It wasn't a bad decision that did this. It was the government and the virus that did this, and circumstances. And so don't be ashamed to take the loan. And I talked about where to get the loan and how to get it quickly and all of that. But in this video, I wanted to cover somebody who is more of an expert on finances than I am, for sure, and who is pretty renowned in his opinion, and that is Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey has a video on YouTube, and I'll link it down below, and we're going to take some snippets out of there, and we're going to read some articles that support what he's talking about. And that is that he thinks that you should not take the loan. Now, Dave Ramsey's whole thing is getting out of debt. So in his argument, and I admire him for this, he says, I'm not going to change that just because a black swan event has happened. Okay? So we're going to look at what he said. We're going to look at some articles that support it. And basically his whole argument is that there is still so much uncertainty going on with the terms and conditions of this grant or this free money, that a loan is a loan and you're going to owe that money back, and they can change the terms or conditions anytime in between. So let's jump into some of it and listen to what he said.
And yet I think I may be the only one, the Ramsey organization may be the only one, and we're all aligned on this panel, that is telling you not to take the, in quotes, free money, the, in quotes, grant, because it is neither. 100% of the time that you borrow money and you sign loan documents, you owe the money. That's what's going to happen here. Then the question is, will the guidelines in the 800-page bill that no one, including the people who voted on it, has read, will they allow you, without a dadgum federal loophole, to have that loan forgiven?
So the reason that section right there was so important, even though it seems like, okay, that's him just saying he disagrees with it, now let's get into the meat of it. The reason that is so important is because I can't tell you how many times I have heard people say, I've probably even said it myself, that this is free money, that this is a grant. And what Dave Ramsey is rightly pointing out is that this thing starts off as a loan. Anything that's forgiven or that's free or whatever, that might come later, but right now, when you sign those papers, you are signing for a loan, and you need to look at it that way instead of you're signing up to get some free money or you're signing up for a grant, because it may not be that way. And he's about to talk about right now how these terms and conditions can change along the way, which can completely change the way that that money is viewed by you.
So I got to tell you what we're going to do at Ramsey. In case you haven't heard before, we don't borrow money, because no one's going to tell us how to run this business at a bank, ever. And I'm not going to be on my knees begging the federal government to do what it promised it was going to do in the headlines, but took away in the fine print.
Now, Dave ain't wrong here. He's not just spouting conspiracy stuff. This actually happened. In an article in Forbes, they talked about how the SBA changed the rules after the first round of funding. They made some, quote, clarifications on some things. So one of those clarifications was that only up to 25% of the forgivable loan amount could be used for rent and utilities. Now, whenever people were first taking out these loans, I remember because I had friends and family and acquaintances who were taking out these loans saying, well, we can use it for rent and utilities. And that's what it says in the CARES Act. But then the SBA clarified that you can only have 25% of the forgivable loan amount used towards rent and utilities. Now hear me here, it's not 25% of the loan. So if you took out $100,000, it isn't saying that you can use up to $25,000 of that for rent, utilities, and other loans that they allowed. That's not what it's saying. So if you use $50,000 for payroll, $50,000 divided by 0.75, which is 75%, equals $66,666. This math is found in the Forbes article that I'm providing in here. What that is saying is that if you used an entire $100,000 of that loan, you completely depleted that loan for rent, utilities, and for payroll, you can only get $66,000 of that forgiven, which means you now have a loan that you need to pay back to the federal government because only 25% of the forgivable loan amount can be for rent and utilities. The other point of clarification that the SBA provided after the fact was when the 8-week period started. So in some states, these business owners were taking out these loans while these shelter-in-place orders were still going on. So they couldn't go out and do business even if they wanted to. So they took out these loans thinking that they could choose when the 8-week time frame would start. So after the shelter in place gets lifted, then we'll go in, we'll start, and I'll start using those monies for, paying my people. Well, they provided clarification on that, and the 8-week term actually starts when you take out the loan. So there are still, because this is so quick and so rapidly evolving, the details on everything are still coming out. And the finer details don't get to be determined by you as the borrower, they get to be determined by the lender. And here's a caveat to that. The lender is not just one person or one entity with like one common goal or anything. It is the federal government, which has a layer upon layer upon layer of agendas, especially in an election year. So you're going to have some people saying businesses are greedy. You're going to have some people saying businesses employ people. And somewhere in the middle where you are at is what's going to come down.
You're going to look up and you're going to entail, at a minimum, a lot of hassle. A lot of hassle. And then be able to get the forgiveness done. At a maximum, the forgiveness is not going to be taken away. Or the forgiveness is going to be taken away and the loan is going to be still sitting there looking at you.
So here's at least one example that provided again by Forbes magazine of one of the hassles that Dave is talking about you're going to have to possibly undergo. And this has nothing to do with government. This is just those private actors out there that think that everybody's out to get something that they don't deserve. So in this article it says private individuals have also made clear that they intend to exercise their rights under the Freedom of Information Act to identify the recipients of the PPP loans with a view to identifying those who, in their view, were not the intended beneficiaries of the program. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Freedom of Information Act, what that is it says that even though you sign something with the government and the government signs something with you saying that everything is going to be kept private and confidential, if a private citizen or a private organization believes that it is in the best interest of the public to know what happened with federal money that the taxpayers paid, they can petition the government to release that information. That means that they know when the money was released, they know to who it was released to, and they know on the dates that it was released, and then they could do with that information whatever they want to drag you through the mud. So what that's saying is that if somebody believes in your hometown or in, you could be in a small town, you could be in a big city, whatever it is, if somebody believes that you should not have taken out this loan, even if you were eligible for it, even if you met all the criteria for it, even if they in their opinion think that you should not have taken out that loan, they can request to know whether you took out the loan, for how much, what date, all of that, and then they can use that information to put it out to the public. They can put it out on Facebook, whatever, right? Like once that information is with the feds and you're borrowing taxpayer money, it is no longer your privacy. It is now a matter of everybody's knowledge if somebody so chooses to push the situation. But of course it doesn't end there. Then you got senators saying stuff too. One point of fogginess is just the sheer fact of when you apply for this. I mean, check this out. This is what it reads inside of the CARES Act. It says, on the PPP application, you certify under good faith, current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support ongoing operations of the applicant. Current economic uncertainty. So some senators like Marco Rubio, and I'm not getting into whether Republicans or Democrats or anything like that. I'm just giving you facts. So I don't care which side of the political aisle this person falls on. This is what the tweet said, and this person is one of the people in charge of this whole program. It says, the certification language in hashtag PPP is real and enforceable. That is why any company of any size that hasn't been harmed by the economic conditions and nevertheless applies for and receives hashtag PPP has a big problem. They made a false certification to the federal government. That tweet was made on April 20th. There's another tweet on April 20th. Hashtag PPP applicants must certify they've been harmed by the crisis and need hashtag PPP loan to operate. Any company with revenue to cover operations isn't eligible. But that's the thing. Why do you have to wait for harm to come and slap you in the face so that it to then apply and have to wait weeks, if not months, in order to get the funding? Nobody waited because nobody said that the economic hardship couldn't be in the future. They didn't say that. But reading those tweets, you would think that if you're not currently undergoing some type of hardship, that you shouldn't apply for this. Well, I'm sorry, but in business, we try to forecast. In business, we try to look to the future, and we try to hedge our bets against that. And so whenever you present an opportunity like this and you word it the way you worded it, I don't know what more you expected. So you may be asking yourself, okay, well then what do I do? And Dave goes on to make a few suggestions.
Guys, please, there's two problems here. One is that you're counting on debt to be your supplier. Your provider. The second thing is you're waiting on the government to be your provider. Neither one of these turn out to be good providers. You come up with ideas to create revenues fresh and different and digitally in the middle of this mess. Go do something special and new, even if you're just doing it for 30 days that you've never done before and you may never do again. Cut your own pay, preserve cash, sell off assets, and protect your people.
You know, he suggests that, first of all, you don't take a paycheck, you start selling assets, or you start to adapt to what the current digital environment is, and you start doing things that you never did before to earn money that are still within your realm. I'll give you an example. I gave this example on another video. There's a local distillery that makes hard liquor. And what they did during this time is, instead of making hard liquor, they started making hand sanitizer. You know, they were able to get into something they didn't do before. They're able to generate revenue off that. And or they might even do this in the future. I mean, the government is acting like this is going to go on forever. So, I mean, hand sanitizer is going to be in high demand. That is what he's talking about. Adapt during these times rather than take out the debt, rather than take out the loan and be at the mercy of them. So there's a little bit from Dave Ramsey on whether or not you should take this. Of course, he is saying no, and I think that he has good reason to say that. There are articles out there that support this. There have been changes along the way. At the same time, I do understand that some of this stuff will get people through these times, and I do think that there has to be some of this that gets forgiven. The question is how much. So my opinion would be that if you take this money out, take it out with the understanding that it's a loan and you're going to have to pay back all of it. If you take it out with that understanding, then you're taking a risk that you fully understand. If you take it out with the hopes that 90% of it or 100% of it is going to get forgiven, I think you're taking it out with a bit of blinders on. So don't do that. Be smart about this. I know these are rapidly evolving times, so just be aware that this is one of those things that is going to have more to come. So when you're dealing with 6 figures of debt, that's an important thing to understand. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully you like that. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below, hit the bell so you get those notifications. And please leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Should you take the PPP loan or should you not? Is it one of those things where I'm being kind of paranoid and Dave's being kind of paranoid? Or is it one of those things where you're not paranoid, they're actually out there and things could go bad? Tell me what you think. So I'll see you on the next episode of Hodgepodgepreneur. And until then, keep charging hard, hard chargers.